So good morning, everybody. I just want to cover some more topics in chapter 15, and I'm basically on slide 35, and we may have covered this already, but this reorder point is basically the point where you want to make sure you don't have any stock outs, right? You have a safety stock of items, and it's the number of lead time, right? Days of lead time times the daily usage. So you want to make sure basically you don't run out, right? So you want to know, this is the point where you reorder inventory, and it's important to know that day, right? So here's a good example, which we saw already, of the economic order quantity, right? This allows you to use efficiently what's on the shelf and not have any leftovers that you don't want to, plus you don't want to run out and lose sales, all right? So this is the optimum economic order quantity, right? And basically now there's a reorder point, which they add to that, right? Here's the reorder point, and basically they want to know, so you don't run out, and so you can go over this, right? They tell you the lead time to order stuff is 2 days, and they want to remain, maintain a safety stock of 4 units. So basically the reorder point for this item is 12.8 units. Right, 2 times 4.4 plus basically 4 a safety stock of 4. So when you round everything off, 12.8 becomes 13 units. So the order is placed when the inventory falls to 13 units, which includes the extra 4 you always want to have. All right, so there's many different inventory control systems here, which we may have gone through this already. So accounts receivable management here is, we've gone through this maybe a little bit, and there's the 5 C's of credit, which is character, capacity, capital, collateral, and conditions. You should know these terms, right? This is like a good multiple choice question. There could be one there that doesn't belong, right? And you have to know that. All right, so credit scoring is a lot of places like you have a credit score, just like I do, right? Like a FICO score, right? And it depends on, and remember, keeping up your own personal credit score is important because you can get cheaper loans. All right, so basically a lot of times companies will relax their credit standards to increase sales, right? It may cost them money, but you can see here what relaxing the credit standards are. If you sales volume goes up, your profits go up, obviously. And if your accounts receivable goes up, it's going to be negative because you don't have that cash available. And bad debt, people don't pay their bills. That's negative for profits too, right? So that should be, some of that stuff should be obvious. And here's a nice example of using all these ideas. 2% bad debt expenses, and you're going to increase your average collection period, the money, how long it takes to get your money, by an additional 15 days, from 30 days to 45 days. And the fixed costs are going to be sunk, right? So those are there no matter what you do as far as variable costs, and the variable cost will be $6 per unit. And the sales price is $10, so your profit's going to be $4 per unit. All right, any questions on that? All right, so here's your average, and here's an important ratio that probably you might have seen in Chapter 3, if you remember, from Business 330, unless you used another text. I always reference my Gitman, this Gitman text here, but you should know some of these. So the turnover of accounts receivable is there. And here's a present and proposed plan for managing accounts receivable. And after we go through all that math with the proposed and present plan, the additional cost of marginal investment in accounts receivable is $2,574. And it's a cost because it represents a maximum amount that could have been earned on, right? You could have used that, invested that money, but you lost that, so that's a cost. And here's the change in marginal bad debts that went up. because of the increased sales from people who didn't pay. All right, so here is the additional profit, right, of the proposed plan. So your profit's gone up by $2,826 a year. So that has gone up, as we see if you go through the simple math with the proposed and present plan. So anyway, just go through that math, and you should have no trouble. All right, so the big thing that's important here is this cash discount. Sometimes companies will do a cash discount to make people willing to buy their items, and you'll see this term a lot, which I'm going to highlight because this is important. Terms of 210 net 30, you should know that if you pay within 10 days, right, you'll get a 2% discount on the invoice price, or you can pay the full amount of the invoice within 30 days. So if you miss the 10-day window, you'll have to pay within the 30 days. All right. So anyway, so that's important to know what that means, right? So 210 net 30, and some will change it to 220 net 30 and give you 20 days to pay, but that affects your bottom line, right? Because you could be investing money that you could be collecting early, so that will be affecting you. So here's another example of all that, and they relax the credit standards, right? So and you can see how it'll start affecting and they go through the math here, and you get the additional profits from sales and net profits from initiation of the cash discount. You'll notice that's in parentheses here, so they're losing on this deal by relaxing the credit standards. They're losing. All right, and there's a couple terms here that are important, so you should go through these. The credit period is the number of days after the beginning of the credit period until full payment of the account is due. That would be the 30, right? So changes in the credit period, as shown here, go from 30 days to 45 days. All right, so there's a whole thing about credit monitoring here, and basically monitoring the accounts receivable, just to determine whether companies are paying on time. And this will affect your bottom line, right? All right, so remember this ratio. This was from Chapter 3. Again, the average collection period is the accounts receivable over the average sales per day. And you can see that basically the age of the account, as time goes on, you have less and less, periods of total balance outstanding. So here's the percentage. So you can clearly see the aging schedule here of the accounts receivable. At 120 days, only 3% is still outstanding. But it appears like around 61 to 90 days, it jumps up, right? Normally it's in a decline, except for the 61 to 90 day period. All right, so there's ways that you can collect money, and you probably know about this. If I don't pay my light bill, they'll send me a letter. And if things get real bad, if I don't pay it, eventually they'll basically shut my lights off and cut my electricity. All right, so there's a thing called float, and basically people play the float, and I play the float when I pay my bills, which I do online now, right? I wait till the very, very last day, so I float the money in the account, and then I have use of it. And only when Cablevision or LIPA says your bill is due, I have it set up so it pays on the last day. So that's the float, and that's kind of like the modern version of the mail float, right? And it takes them a day or two to process it. So all this money's been sitting in my account for a month before it gets cleared out of the bank. So I have all this money, extra money, sitting there collecting interest. So that's basically the modern day electronic float. Used to be through snail mail back then. All right, some of these methods are not used anymore. And right, and then stretching accounts payable is another thing you can do. not pay your bills, but you got to be careful you don't stretch it too much, right? All right, so I think that's pretty much the most important stuff here. And here's a personal finance item, like I just said, about people paying their bills. And you can go through that personal finance thing with Megan. All right, so that's pretty much about it for chapter 15. Any questions, let me know. The reminder, your final is August 19th online on My Finance Lab. Right, it'll be 6 hours long. I sent you a video on that, so you should have that video. I emailed it to you, and it's on announcements.